Hey all, AK here. I've teamed up with Vespers to bring all of you some free new tutorials and free production tools. If we haven't connected before, I'm a music producer based in San Francisco. I'm into glitchy, funky bass music, and I learned to do it all from quality sites and resources like vespers.ca. You can learn more about me on my website, aktunes.com, or check out my trainer profile back at vespers.ca. Don't forget to click this link and grab the free download so you can follow along with this tutorial. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Today I'm going to take you through a method I use to write glitchy and funky melodic lines and bass parts. Essentially, we're going to take the same track, duplicate it a bunch of times with different effects on each copy, and then create one line from the little bits and pieces of all the copies. However, this usually tends to take a long time, and I've developed a few tricks that helps you get this type of thing done quickly. So we'll start with this simple melody I've made in MIDI that's just 2 bars. You don't have to start in MIDI, this works with any clip in Live. Though I tend to get the best results when I start with something where you can distinctly hear notes in the phrase with relatively short release times. Before we duplicate this track, we need to prepare it. What this means is that I'm going to quickly create slices using Command E on a Mac or Control E on a PC that carve out each individual note in our phrase. It doesn't have to be perfect, but doing this first will make our job easier later on. Once you've prepared the clip, duplicate it a couple of times. Here I'll duplicate it 5 times using Command D on a Mac or Control D on a PC. Now, just as a visual indicator, I'll change the colors of all the different copies. I like to put the duplicated channels in their own group and turn off the original clip I duplicated from. Next, we're going to put different effects on the different copies we just made. And how you go about doing this is entirely up to you. I like to use drastically different effects, so I get different results between the different copies. So I'll talk through my general strategy here, and I'll just use native Ableton devices, but you should feel free to go nuts and tear through your VST collection. I usually do filters on one channel, then maybe some distortion on the next channel, then maybe some wacky reverb or delay, and then maybe some modulation effects, and then maybe a resonator or noise generator. So here's the thing. We absolutely could go in here and listen to each track and painstakingly dial in each effect, and then write interesting modulation for a couple parameters within each effect. And don't get me wrong, that is absolutely the best way to get the most intentional results, but that takes a really long time and might not be worth our efforts since we're only going to end up using little bits and pieces of what we've done here. So this is where my technique comes in. The free download for this video is a simple little Max device I configured that's really just a device randomizer. What this means is whatever you map it to, it will turn all the knobs. Actually, only 16 knobs. But still, there's a more robust randomizer that you can find, which is floating around out there, and that lets you specify things like ramp time and speed rates, but mine is simple and gets the job done just fine. Basically, what we're going to do is drop a randomizer on each track, one for each of the different audio effects that we've put on the track, and map it to a respective audio effect on that rack. If you used a VST for one of these, you'll need to configure the modulation parameters you want the randomizer to randomize. Now, this is probably going to choke the hell out of your CPU. That's okay. You don't need to actually listen to these clips yet. And for good measure, since these clips can be super volatile, I like to add a limiter with a healthy ceiling on every single one of these tracks. This is optional but highly recommended if you're trying to not go deaf. Once we have our randomizers activated for every single effect, we can select all the clips in the group and freeze and flatten. This might take a while, so go grab yourself some water or something. When live finishes, what you have are drastically mangled bits of your original line, all cut up so that each clip contains sort of a note. You can probably see where this is going. I'm going to duplicate this whole mess of clips and then deactivate everything. Now comes the fun part. One by one, I'll bring these little audio slices back in while listening to the rest of my track. Again, most of these clips we won't use, but now we have a great pool of little resampled bits to choose from, and they're all in a harmonic context. As I continue to write out this line, I'll mention that we only use 5 copies here, and the more you use, the more variety you'll have to work with. And the more thought you put into which effects go on which channels, the more convenient it will be when bringing those different clips in. The advantage to doing it this way is that you can bring in clips for certain hits, and you can also slide the samples back and forth, which does musically modify your original line, but it gives you a bit more rhythmic flexibility. The only downside to this technique is that it does create lots of audio you don't actually use. So if you're strapped for hard drive space, you might want to consider, well, getting another hard drive. That's all for this video. If this was useful to you guys, do us the favor of liking this video so we can bring you more. Also, make sure you click this link to grab a free download of all the files we built in this tutorial. Vespers.ca has a huge library of production courses and free tools, synth patches, samples, templates, racks, productivity tools, interviews with world-class producers. It's an amazing resource for you to level up your production skills and find your chops with legit quality resources. So come and join us back at the site, and stay tuned for more freebies. See you next time.